to help us in the design.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And moving on to our next guest mentor, Sebastian Amarelli. He is a Ukrainian architect, graduated in honors with ORT University, and he also holds a master's in advanced architecture from IAC Barcelona. He's currently the head of computation at External Reference and a tutor of parametric design and interior designers with a Master of Experiential and Interior Designers at LCI Barcelona. He has his interest in terms of digital fabrication and experiences in the team specialization in the development of complex geometries through parametric design. His research focuses on development of parametric processes that are able to translate complex systems into design and fabrication techniques. Among the projects he has led with External Reference, he has been working on Barcelona Waterfront, Spanish Pavilion Exhibition at Expo 2020 Dubai, Wow Concept and Innovation Shopping Center in Madrid. And this is the project that I think, Sebastian, hello. Yeah, I invite you to talk about the project.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Anusha, for the introduction.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a project that is very close to my heart as well, because it was the first opportunity we had to do a large-scale project in Barcelona, the city that took me in. And it was not only in Barcelona, but it was in a very iconic and beautiful place in the city, which we had a very big challenge to fit this project in a very restricted and existing setting. So it was the first time I had the opportunity to really use the whole skill set acquired along my career to develop this project. You know, we could also really experiment on what we're doing, thanks to our client, which really believed in us. So in this project, everything was done parametrically. There was a lot of testing, a lot of optimization. So the whole concrete structure, the metal structure, the cladding, everything was designed using computational tools, but also optimized to use to optimize resources and materials and molds and for the casting of the panels. So all my skill set and the skill set of my team really helped to develop this project. And as well, we were able to use digital fabrication tools to experiment on new techniques and materialities. So we could use robotic fabrication to fabricate some of the panels to make them bioresponsive and to be able to hold and integrate native plants to add an extra layer to this setting of the city.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I think what's interesting here is that you have all done masters in advanced architecture from IAC Barcelona. So I would like to question that, you know, at what point did each of you decide to study computational design and like what influenced your decision? Starting with Sebastian, I think you can answer that.
So what pushed me to pursue computation was quite a big frustration from my part that after graduating, I didn't find that the job opportunities that I was being offered really catered to what I was expecting when I got into university. And then I believe that as well as I also firmly believed I didn't have the skill set from university to go and work on these firms I admire, you know, Zaha Hadid, Foster & Partners, UN Studio. I looked at these firms and I felt that I wasn't skilled or I didn't have the tools to be part of their teams. So I started I started doing my research and I started to understand what I needed to know and what skills I need to acquire to be able to do these amazing projects that I really wished to do. So this is what pushed me and led me to do my master's in IAC in Barcelona.
Yeah, interesting. Now to Ami, it's the same question. Like, what influenced you to study computational design?
So I think to just zoom out a little bit, yes, we were colleagues, but we were also, Zrinka, Sebastian, and myself, we were best friends at university. We lived across the street from each other. We shared the same thesis advisors and we were very, very good friends. But to come back to your question, I think for me, it was, I'd taken some time between my bachelor's and my master's. So after I finished my bachelor's in the UK, I found myself in Beijing, of all places, the great unknown. And it was there where I saw a lot of people use things like Rhino, Grasshopper. And over there, I was a part of a small design collective with a few friends. And we were doing very avant-garde things, right? Experimental 3D printing. The fashion piece you saw early on was a part of this. And at this point, I didn't know it was called computation, but I was really interested in 3D printing and Grasshopper, right? And what was really empowering to me was that you could write a piece of logic on a screen somewhere and materialize it and get something physical. That to me was revolutionary at that time. So I knew I was interested in kind of technology. So I looked for schools that were specifically looking at this, and EAC was one of the few places which was focused on kind of, at that point they called it bits to geographies, where it was translating data into the built environment. So that's what led me to EAC. But I would say I think it's quite important for us to kind of have an intention with what we're trying to do with our careers, right? And find something that we like to do and then try to pursue it, instead of just going blind and go through your bachelor's, go through your master's, get a job. It's not as exciting.
Yeah, true. A lot of true words have been spoken. Moving on to again, Zrinka, what are your thoughts?
Well, I have to say, before I answer the question, I totally agree with Ami. I think you always need to have a goal in something. You can't just be going blindly, even though your goal might change in the future. Like, I think you should have a goal and know what you would like to do. But how I got into computation design, I think my story is quite different. And
it was through me and Sebas. No, I'm joking.
So, as I have a background in engineering, and even before the university, I always had this interest in maths, physics, computer science. I was never really a humanities person. Like, those subjects didn't really interest me. But, during my time in engineering, I was really curious about the synergies between structural design, geometry, and architecture. But during my studies, unfortunately, I found out that first, I wasn't really getting this knowledge that I was expecting while I was studying. And also I realized that the disciplines are often very disconnected one from another, which was quite surprising for me and also very disappointing. So I really wanted to understand how we can combine these fields. And, I saw, like, I would travel with my parents, with my friends, I would see all of this architecture, but I didn't understand, like, there must be techniques to work with complex geometries, and I wasn't really getting this at university. So I just wanted to, like, learn and know about everything about it. But at the time in Croatia, none of my friends, like, really knew about computational design. So I was, like, trying to search online and apply for a couple of masters. But at the end, I chose EAC because it really caught my eye. They were focusing on this interdisciplinarity and computational design and digital fabrication.
Yeah.
So it at EAC, where I got introduced to computational design and had this kind of hand knowledge, I'd say. It was quite overwhelming, I have to say, at the beginning. I guess it was a bit different to Sebas and Ami because they also knew a bit of it before the course. So for me, it was a bit overwhelming at first, not because of the complexity of some topic, but it was just a lot of different information that I was trying to process. But I really, fell in love with it. It was a place to, learn unconventional design approaches, like try and do crazy different things that even now, my parents and my friends were saying, like, what is this? What is this architecture? What is she doing? But I still find it really funny because now they say, you know, she knew what she wanted to do, so it's good that we listen to her.
Yeah, I think one thing to add here is, you know, we all have intentions. We don't necessarily know how things are going to play out, right?
Yeah,
We were all students at EAC, getting to kind of understand what was going on, and it kind of, you know, it kind of evolved into what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you, Zringa. I really understand that your journey has been really different because you come up with a bachelor's in civil engineering. So that's really interesting. And going forward, I have this question like, you know, could you also share about your first architecture job? You know, what was the first point of your career in respect to the computational design job roles?
But you
Yeah.
just that? Okay.
Yeah.
So when my first job was back home, it was a family-run architecture and engineering firm, not that big. They were focusing on designing this traditional Dalmatian, which is the region that I come from, stone houses. So they work mostly on hotels and you know, family homes. They work a lot with conservational architects because these are usually projects in like areas of protected heritage. It was a very nice office, but it was just my start. So, you know, I was like trying to learn how to use AutoCAD, drawing, making mistakes with stairs. I remember like I had to go how to design with stairs. But it was a very nice environment. I think I did learn a lot from them. A nice experience, but yeah, it was totally different than you know, the different kind of work that I do right now. But I
Okay.
think it was important, you know, to start with something that is maybe different. But then at the time, I think even back then, I knew that this was not something that I see myself doing in the future. Like already then, I knew.
So again, just a curious question. When you were working in the organization, so like we talked about you being a civil engineer and since Ami and Sebastian being architects, the learning was also kind of different and overwhelming, right? So did that make any kind of difference in terms of architects and civil engineering professionals approaching their work styles in the work environment?
Well, not really. Actually, before my studies in EAC, I was also at the AA at the undergrad course for a year, like doing architecture. So, but even during civil engineering, you know, we had a lot of different topics in civil engineering, and the only one that I actually liked were the structural engineering. You know, there were a lot of other engineering topics that wasn't interested at all. So when I started working, I didn't really see like a problem of you know, not having this first experience as an architect, but it was, I think I was kind of self-taught a lot in terms of general architecture. Like you know, I was reading a lot more than other people did because I didn't get maybe this knowledge at first. So it was like, I'd say, quite hard to start. But you know, I knew a lot of architects, and you know, many architects that are very famous. They didn't even have a degree. They just, you know, worked as architects. So I didn't see it as something that's like gonna stop me in what I like. It just, I saw it as an opportunity to my engineering studies were just like an opportunity to see what I like and what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what Z is pointing out is quite interesting, right? Your background is that, right? You can use it as an opportunity, or you can let it be. You can say that it's a disadvantage. I think people who use it as an opportunity to have a voice that's slightly different, I think is much better for the industry, right? You don't want just people of the same background having the same conversations.
Exactly. Yeah. Although I have to say I don't work as an engineer at all, so it's like I cannot discuss very high engineering topics with the consultant. That's why we have them. It's just how I started, but then I didn't, continue doing them.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And Sebastian, I have a question in regards to the same lines. Since you have a specialization with digital fabrication, did you start your career as a first role, as a computational designer with specializing in digital fabrication?
Yeah, so digital fabrication was something I came in when I got into IAC. I went into my master's actually wanting to pursue computational design and parametric design, but digital fabrication wasn't something that was in my mind at the time. But I came across it in IAC and I was completely fascinated by it, to have all this new set of tools that allowed you to translate these complex and digital designs and make them real in the physical world, to take them from the computer and put them in the real world. And these are tools that, used correctly, allow you very easily to translate these complex geometries into the real world in a cost-effective way and in a fast way that maybe with more traditional construction methods you're not allowed to do, or the costs are so high and the times are so long that they don't become feasible anymore. And actually, I was really lucky because during my master's, I got invited to work with one of our tutors there, Carmelo Zapula, the founder of External Reference. And then I joined his practice at the same time as I was doing my master's. And then I saw that at External Reference, they were really pushing digital fabrication, but outside an academic setting, which is quite hard to do now because it's also very difficult to convince the clients to try these new methods. Clients are very skeptical when they should. Why should they believe in these new methods they are proposing? You're putting their investment at risk. They might sometimes want to stay on a more traditional and well-known path, but little by little we started showing that these new digital fabrication tools allowed us to really translate crazy designs and crazy ideas into projects that really started to look different from what was happening in the rest of the places. So we really started pushing digital fabrication and we made it one of our pillars at the studio. So we really push digital fabrication because it's the tools that allow us to make our designs and ideas a reality. And I think now our clients really believe in these new methods.
So I do understand that, even picking a specialization is never easy. And even though there are all three of you have studied computational design, you did end up pursuing different specializations. So how did you end up even exploring the digital fabrication as a specialization? How did that start?
Sorry, I lost you for a bit.
Am I audible?
Yeah, I think it was my connection. I just lost the last bit of the question.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Sorry for that. I was just saying, how did you start with seeking towards the expertise in digital fabrication as a specialization?
As I was mentioning, it was let's say this. We were trying to find a way to make our designs possible for clients in a timely fashion and in a cost-effective way. So a lot of designs that we make, if they were not made by 3D printing, they wouldn't be possible because the cost of doing those geometries, like let's say with a traditional sculptor or with mold casting or creating slip casting molds, we do projects that are completely bespoke. So we do a project, for example, we did a store in Dubai that had 350 unique different pieces that created the whole store. So how could we fabricate this project if we had to do 350 individual molds in a cost-effective way and deliver the project in 4 months? It wouldn't be possible, but with large-scale 3D printing, it's just the translation from computer to real world is very easy. There is a lot of, once you master that communication between computer and machine, you can translate that design into the real world very easily. And that's how we are specializing in that, because we believe this is the future of construction.
Yeah. So following up with that, Ami, I have a question for you. So could you help us understand what exactly design technology means, and how does like you specialize in digital technology in architecture, and what exactly is the difference between your role as a digital tech, head of digital technology and being an architect in general?
Okay, so I think again, if we contextualize this a little bit, essentially, I have the same background as Zrinka and Sebas in the sense that we went to EAC. After this, I found myself in Hong Kong, working for a BIM consultancy as a computational designer, right? And these two, I mean, I knew about these two, but I didn't know how these two could work together. At the BIM consultancy, I was developing tools, workflows for interoperability, things like that. And this is where the opportunity at UN Studio came about. They were looking for someone who was experienced with BIM. And as I joined them, my role evolved more from an architect who can do technology to a technologist with a background in architecture. This means that instead of, traditional architects are looking at one project, coordinating one project, making one project. As a design technologist, you zoom out and your view is more studio focused. So it was at UN Studio where my role kind of evolved from an architect to a design technology specialist. And now what I do, as I was saying, my role is studio focused rather than project focused. So that means that my teams are more concerned about the process of design rather than the product of design, meaning how do we redesign the design process? How do we design and deliver fairly large, sophisticated projects, but also do data analytics? How do we do smarter coordination? How do we present with things like VR, AR, XR? And as a design technologist, I think the tools of your trade become slightly different. So you're not working for a wall or a ceiling or a canopy. You're working on scripts, families, and writing software, right? And fundamentally, you think more about the user experience, which means how are my teams going to pick up the tools that I've made and use it on projects? How do we maximize the impact of a resource? When I spend time on developing something, I'm always thinking about what is the return on investment on this asset? So if I'm making a script that is fairly complex, means that I give it to someone, they're not going to be able to use it. Or I have to give it to a Grasshopper specialist or a BIM specialist. But this is where we look at democratization, right? How do we make tools that are very democratic? How do we empower our design teams with the right tools so that they're able to use combinations of right tools to make their projects more meaningful? So the tools of the trades are the same, right? We're still talking about Rhino, Grasshopper, Revit, Dynamo, programming, sustainability. But instead of thinking about it, how do we use these tools on a project? We're thinking about how do we create the tools using these softwares that our design teams are going to be using, right? So fundamentally, you're a little bit more zoomed out, and you're trying to look at what is happening across different teams. How can we solve a problem for this team, but also then take the same tool and apply it to a different team? So I would say that's the big difference between kind of architects and design tech people, in the sense that we're looking more at the holistic process of design rather than the product, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The insights are really helpful. And moving on, I have this question is for Zrinka. So I do understand that you are also having a role of architect, being specialized in computational design and BIM. So could you also explain me what your job role looks like and what is the difference between being an architect and a computational designer?
Yes, sure. I work both as an architect and a computational designer, but I didn't get the path I am now, like overnight. It kind of happened naturally and gradually. I always loved technology, and Daha was after studying computation design, Zaha was a place where I really wanted to apply because they were always at the forefront of technology, and like since the beginning, the office has always been like a constant great driver in technological innovations, and also one of the first to actually adapt and fully transition to like a 3D digital design process. So I started there working as an architect, but I was using my computational design skills as an architect. But then over the time, I realized and I saw, when you work on such complex projects, there are technical difficulties that occur that you need to solve as well. I got exposed a lot into BIM and its relevance in today's industry. So I kind of started to apply my computational skills and my BIM skills and work at the intersection of both. But the thing is that I love working on projects, so I'm a bit different than Ami. I'm interested in the final product. This is like what I really enjoy, and the entire process of making a project, the issues, complexity that occur during the design stage. So that's why I never, until now, I didn't want to get distance. Although I do have a specialism, I didn't want to get distance from the project. So I do a bit of both, which I have to say it's sometimes really hard. But like the main difference between an architect and computational designer is that an architect is someone who is, trained to design and develop a project and is responsible for the overall design and needs to make sure that the design meets the requirements, code, so on. So they need to have a technical knowledge. They need to, know how to do detail, to coordinate with the consultant, clients if you're like higher level. So you're involved in an overall design coordination. While a computational designer is someone that is using computational tools to support the design. So whether you deal with BIM, geometry, sustainability, digital fabrication, you might develop different like tools, and like Ami was mentioning, also computational designers do develop these scripts to support the project. So, but they can be both. So often architects can be computational designers that are using these tools to support their work. And really, in my opinion, to be a good computational designer, you need to start working as an architect, because you need to have an understanding on why you are using something, when, and how. Like if you don't understand this, then like you wouldn't really be good at applying.
Yeah.
General, I think.
Yeah.
To be a specialist, you need to, have a generalist knowledge and broader picture of.
Thank you again. So you are currently working at Zaha the Architect, and Ami is work with UN Studio and currently is associated with Binoy in London. And Sebastian again is working with External Reference. So these are all very established firms. So could you also tell me about how one can, secure jobs at such established firms? Zrinka, I think you can start.
Yes, well, of course, there are software skills that these offices require. So, from computational design and software like Rhino, Grasshopper, Revit Dynamo, these are a must. So I think these are the most relevant tools that someone needs to have when applying to these kind of offices. Because if you don't have them, it's going to be like really difficult to get a position. If you just use AutoCAD and SketchUp, it's not really going to get you into these offices, because it's just not the tool that we use. I mean, we might use sometimes AutoCAD, but it's not enough. So these are the basic tools that you need to have. Yeah, you don't have to be super like specialist, like very, very good at it, but you need to start, and you need to be willing to learn them, I say. And then as you show that you have in your portfolio, this is something that the offices will look. But I think also once you get the job, there are also other skills that you need to have. So there are no software, but there are more soft skills that you need to have, like your time management, coordination, like working with people, because you might be the best coder or the best designer ever, but if you just work like as one, it's going to be really hard. So I think that's also more and more what offices are looking for, someone that has good soft skills.
Yeah, I think just to add to what Zrinka is saying, I mean, I'm hiring right now, and I'm looking at hundreds of portfolios every day. I think when I look at portfolios, I'm looking at it on three kind of scales, right? On the micro level, as Rinka mentioned, you need to know the skills of the trade, right? You need to have a documented skill set through your portfolio. But if you zoom out a little bit and you look at the macro, it's the ability to use these skills to come up with a comprehensive argument, right? So it's not good enough that you know how to do an attractor script. It's more important that you are tying the attractor script to a logic that is sustainable or something like that. And then when you zoom out even more on a mesoscale, it's about how the projects you've done weave a narrative about yourself. When I look at your portfolio, what does it tell me? What do you stand for? So, when you zoom out at different levels, you need to be able to kind of have a voice or a narrative about yourself. You need to know the skills. You need to be able to use those skills in the context of a project and have projects that speak to each other and tell me more about what you do. That would be a great portfolio. And if you have a portfolio like that, please apply.
So
I think also, I just want to add something. I think also you also have to always be open for new things.
Yeah.
And because what was relevant 5 years ago is already out of date, many techniques. So you need to understand that things are evolving and changing. You need to always explore new things, like be open. What you use now, maybe you will not use in 3-4 years, because I'm not saying drastically it will change, but there will be maybe different workflows that you will use in 5 years.
Yeah, I think my perspective is a bit different, because at External Reference, we're very design oriented. We really are focused on the creative side and the design aspect of the project. So we really focus on the concept stage. So for us, it's also about the skill set, because as Ami was mentioning, we're not just looking for someone that can do an attractor script. Of course, there is this duality between being a creative and having the tools to allow you to express this creativity. But we also sometimes find that people also are very skilled in a software, but they don't know how to use that software creatively. They can just replicate everything very well, but then it's just standard. So for us, it's also the link to have very skilled people with the software, and also to be able to be creative, to use these tools creatively. Tools are then tools, but then you need to know how to use them and apply them to make them do what you want them to do, not just to replicate something that you can see.
Yeah.
Of course, you need to know these tools first very well.
How many, Sebas, how many portfolios have you seen where you see a literal script copied from Arturo Tedeschi's book, and it's an AAD script, and you can tell, right? That
you can tell, yeah. That's a big no-no for us. Every time we see like a Grasshopper script screenshot pasted on a portfolio, it's like don't show me
put that.
Show me the result. I'm more interested in the result, and how you get there we can discuss. We're also open to new workflows.
And to be honest, every time I've seen a project which does not show the Grasshopper skills, but the Grasshopper skills are implied, is a lot better than looking at your script, because there's no point in showing us your script, right?
Yeah, that is what we're looking for. It's implied in the job description that we are looking for someone that knows computation design and Grasshopper. But I'm interested in how you use Rhino and Grasshopper, not that you use it.
Yeah.
So just to summarize, Ami, maybe you could tell us what's the 3 things that you kind of identify or look for in a portfolio?
Okay. I think I spoke about it, the 3 things, right? First, documented skill set, right? It's not good enough that you say you have 5 stars on Grasshopper and 4 stars on Dynamo. It's about what you're doing with that. All right, right. I should be able to tell from your portfolio that you know how to use these skills. Second is having an agenda, having a voice, right? The skills are good enough, but what are you doing with them? Do you care about sustainability? Are you more interested in computational fluid dynamics? Are you more interested in digital fabrication? What does your, how do you synthesize your skills into a product? And then again, for me, the most important thing and is about a narrative, right? Because when we're hiring people, we're looking for people who are going to work next to us, right? Skills can be learned, but a narrative cannot be built, right?
True.
Who you think about yourself, how you think about yourself on a conceptual level, I think is also very important. And yeah, that's what I would say, probably the most important things. Some of the best portfolios I've seen recently didn't even have work. One of them was just emojis and talking about what their narrative is and what how they are trying to build up a career in design technology. And as soon as I looked at that, I was like, okay, I want to know who this person is.
Yeah. But let me just think about this. Like as students, a lot of people struggle portfolio building when they're applying for firms, right? But again, if we all relate to this, that architecture colleges mostly use technology for visual presentations, right? Likely for models or drawing. So how can architects, take a step further to embrace the technology in like overall design workflows? Like what you said, rather than reading, how do they can display the narrative to their projects?
I mean, first, I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that technology is fundamentally changing the way we built, the way we design the built environment, right? For everything from how a building is conceptualized to how it's coordinated and even built, right? As architects in today's age, we have to be aware, we have to be working with everything from, the ChatGPTs and the Midjourneys to Grasshopper and BIM and digital twins and the metaverse, right? So the ability to zoom out of just drawings and renders and look for opportunities to engage with technology in more holistic ways. So just as an example at Binoy, the way that we're approaching technology, right? We're looking for meaningful technology that helps us conceptualize a building, that helps us validate our design ideas, that help us coordinate and put a building together, that help us understand the way we design through the lens of data, help us communicate our designs better, and help us realize our vision. And at the same time, you're thinking about how do we do this while streamlining efficiency, right? So there is opportunities to engage with technology in every process of design, right? And if we're not doing that in today's age, then we are at we're going to be extinct as architects, right? If we don't evolve, then as an industry, we're going to be replaced because engineers are doing a lot of the coordination and things like that. As master builders, that's what we used to be known as. If we don't have an understanding of the process and how our processes can become better through meaningfully engaging with technology, then we're just not innovating, right? So as a student, I would say, look for opportunities in everything you do. Don't just think about the render and the drawing. Think about how a project is being conceptualized. Why aren't you using Midjourney to maybe do some concept images? Then how do you then take it to Grasshopper and maybe do a few variations of formal analyses? Then how do you validate those ideas and create a presentation that is cohesive, but is also very dynamic in the sense that I want to know more about the project. And these tools exist, right? So being a student or being a young career professional, I think the opportunity is right? The tools are all around us and people around us are engaging with these things. So look for any ways to upskill that you can, right? Whether it's through structured learning, like 1:X, reading papers, looking at conferences. I mean, education or skills have been democratized to an extent where it is accessible by most people. So we need to be engaging with these things. It's not good enough today that you're doing CAD drawings and you have a nice render. everything that happens before and after is as important, if not more.
Mhm. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing that. And like, I want to ask this question to Zrinka. What, according to you, is the most important use of computational design?
I think it has a lot of uses, but I'd say it allows us to explore, a spectrum of design options and the possibilities that without computational design, there was no way we'd be able to do it. So it offers a lot of freedom to address either like contextual and programmatic needs, allows us to very quickly evaluate the results and find these designs that and methods through data that we wouldn't be, using, and it helps us have more informed decisions about the design, whether it's, we look at the materials or fabrication techniques, structural performance, environmental performance. So I think it gives us a lot of opportunity to explore the design itself. But another thing that I would say that is for me very important is that it helps us to automate very repetitive tasks and make it easier to manage complex projects. So it really reduces time and the risk of errors that a human error, would happen. So this automatically gives us more time to spend on the design itself rather than doing repetitive things. So it kind of streamlines the design process. I would say those two things. And of course, it just allows much better collaboration between all the parties that are involved, which will essentially ensure that the project is done in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Say those two things more from a design point of view, but also as well from the whole design process.
Yeah. Since we are all aware that computational design as a concept is not only just limited to the built environment, it does have a lot of scope in other sectors as well. So, taking this question to Sebastian, what do you think is the future scope of computational design career in respect to the AEC industry? And what are the career opportunities that are beyond AEC industry?
So, computational design, I think Zrinka touched on this very, very well. It can be applied to every part of the process. It's not just one tool that you either use for design, for construction, for optimization, or for analysis. It is something that is across the EAC industry. You just need to know how to use it. In my case, we are very focused on the design part. So for us, computational design allows us to test and test a lot design options and to be able to present to clients not one design option, not one design solution, but in some case many 4 or 5 different concepts in one client in the same amount of time that it would have taken to present one concept without the proper tools. So I believe it's the future in the EAC industry. But it then depends on how you specialize, because you can be a computational designer, but I don't think you need to apply to one of the many fields across the AEC industry, because it's very broad. I mean, it's not something that one person can do. And Ami was also touching upon this, how he's focused now on developing tools for different teams. So I think he also is very aware of this. It's not the same computational tools applied for design or computational tools applied for analysis or for geometry optimization or for production optimization. So to be honest, I think it is the future in the sense that it will allow us to make the whole industry much more efficient, but at the same time, much more creative.
Great. It is good to know about the career options in the AEC industry and beyond them, because I think going forward, the next generation of architects are looking forward to grab all the opportunities that are available. So
I think Anusha, also just to add right now is if you have computational skills, it's very in demand right now. Nike is
Yeah.
looking for computational designers. Apple is looking for computational designers. We have people from Zaha who are now directors of metaverse worlds, right? We have, I mean, the opportunity is there. We work with so many software companies that are built by architects. We have companies like 1:X that are built by architects, right? So, I mean, fundamentally, computation is, what is computation? It's the AEC industry trying to catch up to tech, right? And tech has already changed the way we live, right? It wouldn't be possible for us to have this conversation if it wasn't for technology, right? The same way as we're designing these big sophisticated projects to even smaller, kind of more bespoke projects, we're doing so much coordination. We're talking to so many software companies, we're talking to engineers, we're talking to and we're seeing that these skills can be applied on such a large domain. I mean, I have friends who are working in the VFX industry who are working for Nike or Adidas. So there's a lot of opportunity out there if you have the right skill set.
Yeah.
I'd also say there's, I mean, it's still a part of architecture, but you can get more into VR and AR and, mixed reality, which is something that is also helping our industry, but it's also, helping to present and build projects as well, like fashion industry as well. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, but they're all using computation design tools.
Yeah.
So the Dior
I was first.
fully
No,
3D
okay.
printed. No? You did it?
The 3D printed dress that
No, but now even
now
Dior
it's
is doing
yeah.
sneakers that, I mean, they're using all these tools, as well as I think can be applied in a lot of material research and, like looking at a microscale as well, like people that
I
are
think
not
even for example,
architects that are using
the new products that are coming out, I think it was BIG and Solar City that are coming up with a new PV panel that's beautiful. Snøhetta is now working with a material manufacturer on creating these tiling systems that are permeable and beautiful. Sebas, you're working with Numena on a lot of material tech applications. So, I mean, it's us reclaiming this idea that we're still kind of master builders that was kind of lost over the last 50 years.
But there is still a long way to go. I don't know if you guys came across this, but there's nothing more frustrating than you having and us having all these tools available and then working with some consultant or constructor, and you have this beautiful BIM model that's very detailed, fully 3D, and then getting asked for a DWG section because they are not able to work with this. And I'm like, guys, please, I have to waste time to develop this drawing when I can just give you this and make the whole process much more efficient. Because also in translating these models back to this old way of working in 2D plans, a lot of information doesn't translate or gets mistranslated, and then a lot of errors happen and a lot of inefficiencies happen. So I think there's still, I mean, there's a huge optimism that there's still a lot of catching up to.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we'll just take a last minute to giving an advice to the next generation of architects. It could be related to computational design or the career opportunities. So any personal advice, if I may ask, so what would that be? Starting with Ami.
Okay, so I always refer back to this concept. There's this very beautiful Japanese concept of ikigai. Ikigai stands for the reason for being, right? It talks about if you can find something that you love, that the world needs, that you can be paid for, and you're good at, which means it's your passion, it's your mission, it's your vocation, and your profession. That's where your life becomes truly meaningful. And I would say maybe it's not tech for everyone, but find that space, that niche where you thrive and make it your life's work.
Yeah. What about you, Zrinka?
Yeah, I really like what Rami said. Like, I feel like I can't say anything else. But I would say as well, like, find a goal, find a niche that you have. Although it doesn't mean that it's gonna target you forever. Like, it might change, but try to have something you're trying to do. And really, I would say really embrace technology, because I think it's the only way we can move forward as an industry, like stay curious and really embrace technology.
Damn, you stole my onesie. Mine was very
Which
short and
one?
simple. Stay curious. That's
No,
my
Sebas, there was a second part to yours, and I think it's very relevant, right?
stay curious or get out. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, but yeah,
It's true.
never stop looking, read, guys, be curious, because this is the world moves very fast. So if you're not catching up and looking, and be broad, no, don't just look at the industry. We look a lot into the art world, into biology. The world is very big. There's a lot of things up there, and there is nothing more beautiful when you get a concept that is completely unrelated, completely out of the industry, and you manage to apply it to your own project or to your own career. That's, I think, when true innovation happens.
Oh, Anusha, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Great advice. It's really inspiring, guys. I think we'll just take a couple of minutes, maybe taking questions from our viewers.
Mhm.
Mana, yeah. Are there any questions, Manat? Can we just read out the questions from the chat?
So hi everyone. So anyone who wants to ask questions can raise their hand, and then we can ask you to unmute and take this forward.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Ahan, I think you have a question.
So my question is, whenever you analyze the portfolios that are coming to you, what do you look specifically? Do you look like a previous master degree done by a student, or do you look that a particular person has a lot of strong skill set in the particular skills? Do you look for the traditional master degree or a skill set in a person?
I think in today's age, it doesn't really matter where you did your master's, as long as you have documented skill set, right? And the ability to kind of compound that into ideas. I don't think, I mean, for us, masters has been really good at growing a great network, right? We're still very, very good friends, but when I'm looking for people, I don't necessarily want them to be from Harvard or MIT or EAC. I care more about, are they going to fit into my team? Are they going to be able to help the design teams? And do they have the right skills and the ability to kind of present their ideas in a smart way?
Yeah, I agree. But also never forget that as architects, we're also communicators. So, I mean, learn to really show your skill set. Your portfolio should never be just a series of copy-paste of renders. Learn to communicate your drawings, learn to communicate, because even the most beautiful and best project, wrongly communicated, will never translate. So always have that in mind. No? Try to think what you want to say, and find the best way to say it. And I agree with Ami, it's not about the masters or where you studied. It's more about what you can do with the tools you know, and how you are able to communicate this.
I agree as well. Master is definitely not something any office is looking. It's the content that you are trying to show. But also, I think it depends on, of course, the role and the seniority of the position you're applying to. So I'd say don't get too overwhelmed now thinking that you have to have a lot of computational work. It just like really depends on the role that you are applying.
Yeah, Ahan, I think we answered your question. So moving on to the next question, Kishore. Hello.
I think he's on mute.
Okay.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. Thank you. Thank you for letting me ask my question. And first of all, nice to meet you all, you guys. And my question is, each and every architect has its own vision. Like you said, like you have to have a vision, be curious, or get out. So like each and everyone has their own vision. When you combine everyone in a team and they are working in the same project, the project is under one scope of work. So how do you think combining all these visions can help everyone out?
Oh, Rosie.
I think, yeah, I mean, it really depends on the environment you're at, and we all have our own visions, but we need to learn how to like work together and how we can get the best of all of our knowledge or our ideas for a project. So sometimes, like, or if you work for a bigger company like Zaha, a studio, like the office itself has their agenda. So if you are like very, very different than the agenda that we have in the office, you might do find it difficult to be in that position. So though we all have our own views, I think it's important to like pick the right environment you want to be. Or if you decide to start your own practice, you need to like be around the people that have, of course, not the same. We're all different. We all have different ideas, but it needs to kind of have a similar agenda, I would say. And then when you find that environment is the best thing, that everyone has different ideas, because that's how amazing work happens. No, everyone is giving their contribution, whether whatever experience, is it technical design, something else, but everyone has their voice to bring to the designs. But sometimes it might not be taken into account because it was maybe not the best thing for that specific topic. But I would say like the environment you are in is also very important. If you're like you have a totally different mindset, I think you might struggle in
You can't go to Zaha and make boxes, essentially.
I don't think it's about that, to be honest. No, really. I mean, we are doing boxes now as well. I think it's I think
I think we just have to
Sabas,
lose decide right path for us.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, no, I would say,
yeah.
maybe
So we have
let Sabas.
this saying here at the office that there is actually two. Of course, the studio has a vision and a design aesthetic and a way that we work. But there's two sayings: always that the best idea wins, and that at the studio there are no egos. We need to learn to work as a team.
Yeah.
So you need to understand maybe that you will push your idea, and sometimes it will get traction, but sometimes it will get discarded because. Exactly, because you need to work as a team, and if you are not able to work as a team, I think you're going to find the architectural world very, very difficult, because this idea of the architect, the one person that does the whole project, that doesn't exist. It's not a reality.
Yeah. I mean, even right now, if you look at any building and it says Zaha Hadid Architects or UN Studio or Benoit or whatever, there's probably a good 500 people who've worked on it, right?
Exactly.
At any given
Exactly.
times. So it's not about, I would say, more than a vision, it's about an agenda, right? And I think it's good for everyone to have an agenda, right? If my agenda is technology, I'm the champion of how we're using technology in the process. If someone else has an agenda on sustainability, they're going to think about how we can use sustainability to deliver better projects. So it's having agendas is good, but we have to understand that the vision doesn't exist anymore. There's not one person who's designing a building and putting it together. It's going to go through so many processes, and you're going to have to learn how to collaborate.
Exactly.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for asking my question.
Yeah, that was an interesting
cleared
question,
me
Kishore. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And moving on, I think we have a question from Deeksha.
Hi, Deeksha.
Yeah.
She was one of our
Just a second.
students.
Oh. Hi, Deeksha.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I joined a little late. So my question is two-part. Number one, hi, Ami. How are you?
Deeksha.
So a couple of things is that while reading and exploring about computational design, my queries come back to things about data. So we as an industry embracing a lot of tech, which means that as we were explained in the 1:X course, that we are letting go of legacy tools like CAD and SketchUp to embrace more tools like which hold a lot of data. How important is the analysis of data to your job, like a day-to-day, like your day-to-day workings? Because is understanding data as important as exploring these, as computational design allows you to explore a lot of design options and creativity, the other part of data being important and understanding that, how is that, like, how does that fit into your job is my question.
I think for me, it's imperative. Fundamentally, everything we do is data, right? When you're writing a Grasshopper script, you're creating data. How do you then translate that data into your Revit model? That's data. Even if you look at a specific process, right? Right now, with my teams, we do a lot of data analytics on our existing projects to get an understanding of, we're designing a big mixed use area. How much area is hotel? How much area is retail? How much area is mall? How much do we anticipate the back of house for a mall being cost versus a front of house for a hotel being cost? What is the yield on these things? And it's not us asking these questions, it's our clients asking these questions. The clients want to know, how much am I investing? What am I going to get out of these investments? But then we also look at data analytics in terms of BIM management, right? We take our BIM models on, I would say, a regular basis and run them through data analysis protocols and get an understanding of how good is a BIM model doing. Did someone add a lot of lines last week? Why did they why did they have to add these many lines last week? So it helps us ask the right questions. And fundamentally, I think computational design allows us to create data. BIM is a data set, right? So these two work in tandem, very much so. And now, as we look at things like digital twins, it's about then taking that data on a city scale, running urban simulations on that, getting an understanding of how something is going to be built. So I would say where data is very useful is it helps us simulate a lot of things. It helps us understand in 10 years when this building is going to be built, how is the occupancy going to look like? What do we think the market trends are going to be? Do we need more open space, open office areas? Do we need more residential, X, Y, Z? So if you know how to work with data, then you're asking the right questions to clients, to design leadership, et cetera, and helping them really kind of validate their thinking. Because gone are the days where, you as an architect say, this is the best geometry because of XYZ. Now we have to back that up with analytics. We have to back that up with business decisions. And this is where data becomes very fundamental to how we work, for me.
Yeah, I agree with Ami. Everything is data. So just as an example, right now, we are partnering up with this company called Numena, and they're installing sensors in all the stores that we are designing. So this is applied to retail, for example. So we are analyzing the stores that we designed through the sensor and mapping how people walk and how people interact in the stores with the products, different elements, and to find out what design elements attract people, what creates cold zones, meaning that there is little footfall traffic within the store. And by analyzing this data in this past projects, then we can inform future projects. We know what works. We know what areas of the store will be empty. We know at what height to put the products. It's allows you to gives you a lot more input to then for you to translate that into design. And you need to know as well how to interpret this data, because data without you knowing how to interpret it or use it is just data.
Yeah. I totally agree with both Ami and Seba. Data is everywhere. We use it in our office. We use it in every part of our process, and doesn't necessarily mean one person is doing it, but there are teams that are analyzing this data. So if we're working now on a transportation project, there are teams that are analyzing the flow of people, the peak times. If we're doing, then there's a sustainability team that is looking at the billing for performance and how we design, getting data to better inform our design. There are so many so many different aspects of using data, I'd say, but we always, it's a must. Everything.
Data is what makes computation, and BIM,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So for Zrinka, like the people who are analyzing this data, do their job profiles also say computational designer, or does it say something different?
I'm not sure. Do you mean like a title in their company or
the role?
Breaking up?
I guess the
well, you
question
would
is,
have
yeah. Do you think architects need to know those things?
yes, I guess of course they need to know these things. But they are, I think, I mean, the title itself doesn't really matter. There are different places that, you know, have the more specialized titles, some more general. But yeah, you would have like a sustainability, sustainability analyst, or we in the office, we have a team that is working just like looking at the people flow. We have different teams that are researching on geometry and like coding, but they are still, I mean, they don't necessarily need to have like this title, but they are all computation designers, say.
Okay.
I hope this answers your really question. But there are people specializing in something, so you might have an associate and like a VR specialist or sustainability analyst or researcher in geometry, but this is all computation design.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Good to see you, Diksha. Hope you're good.
Yes, I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Guys, I think we'll take a last couple of questions. And I do personally have one question since we're talking a lot about data here. As an architect, I know that computational design deals a lot with data, and also it kind of comes with an innate attitude towards algorithmic and mathematical equations, I believe. So is this something, if people are curious about computational design, can pick up as they go forward with the subject, or is this something like they do have to have, again, a certain understanding of maybe math with the design part?
I think for me, it's a very interesting thing because I almost failed my high school maths, right?
Okay.
But now I use maths on a day-to-day basis for everything. So I found my love of maths through Grasshopper. How crazy is that?
That's
So
really
I would
neat.
say you don't need to know maths, but it does require, and this happens as you start working more with softwares like Dynamo and Grasshopper, where you're thinking more in terms of logics. You're thinking more in terms of amalgamation of logics, right? So it's not necessarily that you need to know maths, but maths will teach itself to you when you're doing these things, because and it's very much more applied, right? Everyone remembers the kind of high school calculus that you had to do. I still can't solve those equations, but if you tell me to write a code for a hyperbolic paraboloid, I know how to do that. And it was only after I started doing that I was like, oh, those differential equations now make a lot more sense.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And just the last question here, like in terms of, again, specializations in computational design, it could be sustainability, high building performance analysis, or again, the vertical of implementing BIM workflows, being computational designers. And again, like Sebastian, maybe the knowledge or expertise in digital fabrication. In the current, the requirements, like again, where companies, firms are looking out for professionals, not only with the basic understanding of computational design, but also in requirement with these specialization skills. So how important are specializations in respect to the computational design as a vertical? Sebastian, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's very broad, no? So I think it just depends on what you want to do and where you want to focus, because I think, as it was mentioned during the session, computation can be applied to everything. So if you're looking for a specific role, you want to be like a sustainability expert, then specialization is very important, because you need to be specialized with those concepts, get familiar with the aspects of sustainability. If you wanna focus on the fabrication side of things, you need to specialize on that, because you need to know the tools. But then I think it's much more of a question of where do you want to go and where do you see yourself. I think you need to specialize, but I also think you need to be broad, in the sense that you need to be both a specialist and a generalist, so you can talk across fields. But I think career-wise, it is smart choice to specialize, because then you will be able to find your niche, and you will be able to find a specific role for you, which someone which maybe has a more general profile won't have that.
Yeah, I think they talk about the T-shape, right? Being able to go wide, but also being able to go deep. So you understand general kind of concepts, and you understand how a building is put together, but you have the ability to go deeper and look very specifically at sustainability, or very specifically at facade rationalization. So having that kind of T-shaped profile is where you bring the most value, I would say, to a lot of firms. Right, Z?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like this T-shape knowledge, I love it. I think, yes, it's great, and we should all specialize in something, but we need to also be generalists. So if you are just starting, I would say like you need to have this generalist knowledge to become a good specialist, because if you don't have, you're not gonna be doing it right. You're gonna you might make problems to other businesses, because you are just so focused on this specialization. So
Yeah, but I think if you
the generalist knowledge definitely is.
Yeah, if you like look 10 years from now, as the industry gets more and more fragmented, and as technology becomes more and more relevant, we will need a lot of specialists, right? So you like forward looking is, I would say, generalist with a specialist knowledge, but have that specialist knowledge, because if you're just a generalist, then you're the most at risk of losing your job in the next 10 years, because Sebas and Zrinka are already working on code that will replace you.
We already have it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Guy, for taking time out for this webinar and being as descriptive as possible, and again, interacting with our viewers. So I just want to take a minute here and just to summarize that, again, you guys can correct me, since we're talking about the need of learning the computational design, and the skill sets to be a specialist, to be a future forward, maybe fast tracking your career options as well, apart from being a generalist architecture or a designer in terms of professional roles. So just to highlight it, we are conducting our webinar, second webinar in the next week, and we are also launching this course called Master Computational Design at 1:X. The course is starting from February 18th, and we do have limited seats. So we encourage our viewers to, let us know about your interest, since you will be learning all the best skills possible from our industry experts, coming from top AEC companies working as computational designers and specialists across the globe. So this is going to be an engaging 8-month journey in this course. So again, we are open to take questions if anybody is interested in terms of to know about this course details. We have somebody who has raised hands here. Just a minute. Neil Kumar, do you have a question?
Hi, I did have a question with the mentors about the things, but I don't think so. We're taking any more questions, right?
Yeah, but since you're already here, you can let us know what your question is about.
Well, my question was as my background goes, I am not an architect. I am from engineering background, but
Okay.
I'm currently doing my master's in construction project management. And since recent studies, I have been more into BIM design and everything. So I want to pursue my career in that. So as far as I've seen through the companies from the architects, and they require like the portfolio. But as an engineer, we don't have any portfolio. So I just wanted to have an advice like how a person from an engineering background can get into the BIM role. How can he
Yeah.
get forward into it? Like,
Yeah, I think Zrinka has briefly mentioned about it, but I think Zrinka, you can answer this question, I believe.
Yeah, well, I think if you don't have any architectural or work that you did in designing buildings, even from a BIM perspective as a BIM engineer or BIM coordinator, you definitely have the opportunity you will have, but you need to decide. You either try to enroll in a course, and at 1S2X there's a BIM professional course, or you try to find like different I think just do a course to start get familiar, but because you will not be able to get a job in BIM without having any clue about BIM. So I think you need to like start from doing a course or doing something, and then just start applying to these roles. Even as a junior position, you need to like learn a bit. If you already have this experience, then you need to put it in the portfolio, even though you did it as a BIM engineer. I'm not sure which engineering you did, or mechanical, something, but you can be also
I am
BIM
from like
coordinator.
sorry. I'm from civil engineering background, so I mean I do have a quite of knowledge in like on-site knowledge as a site engineer. But
Mhm.
all I'm at the moment I'm doing is just trying to learn all the possible design code, design softwares which I can like, and probably not just be at the intermediate level, but at least master at like quite a higher level basically. So at least
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say the best thing is to do some course and just like to get started.
I would say invest in your future self.
Yeah.
What is it that you want to be? Make an investment into that. Right? Because
Okay.
you can't just go in and say, hey, I don't know BIM, but can you hire me as a BIM designer?
Yeah.
You need to invest in that idea that you have. You want to be doing that. Let's see what we can do with or how we can learn those things in a structured manner, and then the opportunities will present themselves.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your help, guys.
Thank you again. Thank you, Neil, for your question. I think we'll be happy to let you know that you guys can check out the 1S2X website and much more details about the upcoming computational design course starting from February 8th. And again, thank you so much, guys, Amis, Rinka, and Sebastian, for being on board with us and being a part of, educating our students in terms of letting them know what could be the other career opportunities along with architecture and computational design.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And again, thanks for hosting us. As you see, we're old friends who have now been living in different places. Zrinka and I live in London, but I only just moved to London. So it's a fantastic platform for us to have this conversation because we go a long way back and we know how we've kind of evolved, and also very proud to see Zrinka and Sebas and where they are right now. We still have this WhatsApp group that we talk on, and it's fantastic to see where we've come.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for having us. It's been really a pleasure. And thanks everyone for joining for this.
Yeah, thank you for having us, and thank you everyone. It was also great to see you, Ami and Zrinka.
Yeah. So these three amazing architects and designers are also part of our mentor panel. So you can even connect with them and get to know more. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.